are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Hello, I'm your Superintendent, Jason Manuel.
And I am co-host Mason Grace, Communications Coordinator for the Germantown Municipal School District. Thanks for joining us for this week's Spotlight on Excellence.
For today's show, we will see some innovative strategies in our school libraries, and we will hear from Houston High School student who has been planning something special for this year's World AIDS Day.
But first, we get to visit with Jessica Woody, Assistant Principal of Houston Middle School and Coordinator of the Juniors Honors and Leadership Academies.
Thank you for being here.
Sure, nice to be here.
So this is the first year for the Juniors Honors Academy. How did it all get started?
Well, you know, the high school has had it for several years, and Mr. Manuel wanted to extend that to the middle school to help bridge the gap between, you know, what they do in middle school and what we do in high school. So we put it together starting last year and then went into implementation this year.
Well, tell us about how do you get into it? So we really have two academies. We have an honors and a leadership.
Yes.
People want that small cohort. Parents, families want their kids to be plugged into something. Tell us about the application process and how many applied and what did that look like?
Sure. The Junior Honors Academy, we started out with a 3.5 GPA as a minimum for their semesters in middle school. We also had an interview portion and then a writing portion. And we had so many kids apply that we had to up the GPA. So we ended up at Houston Middle doing a 3.75 as the minimum cutoff in order to get to the interview part. So we had about 90 to 100 kiddos who actually applied, and then we accepted around 50.
So what happened to all the others?
Well, you know, we want all of our kiddos to have something to do at Houston Middle. So it was kind of a two-pronged process because we knew that Junior Honors Academy was going to be great for our highest achieving kids, but we also wanted something for our just typical kids who are also equally great and needed to be prepared for some things in high school. So for the Leadership Academy, we took about the next 10 high scoring kids who didn't quite make the cutoff for Junior Honors Academy, and then we took teacher and counselor nominations for the rest of our kids who showed, you know, great leadership skills, but maybe just needed an extra push or some opportunities to get involved. So that's how we picked our kids for the Leadership Academy.
So between the two groups, about how many do you have?
We've got about 100 kids.
Oh, right.
So 50,
Nice. Awesome.
50 in each group.
Well, tell us a little bit about the difference between the two. So when we look at really the vision for these academies, what are they going to be doing and how is that tied to your school vision for what happens during the year?
Well, most of their activities run concurrently because once we started looking at what do we want to do for our Junior Honors kids, what do we want to do for our leadership kids, they were really similar. So we are bringing in some speakers. The high school came down and did some of their capstone projects for our kids so they could see what's coming up. We're also going to have a session where we train them to get ready for the Honors Academy process.
That's good because I think I told you
the
first year when we started the Honors Academy, some of these kids have never had any experience with an interview. And it was so hard to watch them struggle through this process where they would be sliding down in their chair the whole time.
Yes.
Or they can't shake your hand or the whole time.
Yes. So all of those are important life skills. So we're going to have a handshake session, we're going to have an interview portion, and then a writing portion also. So they'll be a little more relaxed when they're in that atmosphere sitting around a table full of adults.
And so go back a little bit. Now, you said that the high school students actually came and presented their capstone to them.
Yes.
I mean, that's got to be huge for them. So kind of how did that, walk us through that.
Yes, Dr. Simone and I, we have been, you know, talking to kind of, you know, see what she's doing here, see what we're doing at the middle school. And we surveyed our kids at the middle school to see what they're anxious about for high school. And it's, you know, how do I balance grades and friends and sports, and how do I kind of keep it all together? So we wanted the high schoolers to come down. So they presented their projects that they've been working on, so our kids got to see that. And then they also got to ask questions of, how do you keep your grades up? How much homework is there? Am I going to get lost? Is someone going to shove me in a locker? You know, all of those things they're worried about when they're coming to high school.
Well, tell us about some of the capstone projects, because this is their culminating experience for their project. Do you think the kids had a favorite?
It was neat, I think, for them to just see different pathways because, you know, the kids investigate what they might be interested in. So there were some that had done advertising, there were some that had been at Campbell's Clinic, so it was neat for our kids to get to see, you know, the research that these kids had done in some fields that they were interested in and got ours thinking about things that they may be interested in also.
Oh, that's neat.
And I think there was a retreat. I saw some good pictures.
Yes, we had a leadership retreat. We wanted to do something special for those kids since it's our first year. So we went to Lakeshore Retreat Center, which a bunch of our kids go to in the summer for different trips. And they planned a whole 2 days for us. And it was neat to see their definition of leadership at the beginning. And it was all about the boss and telling people what to do. And then by the time the 2 days were over, it was more of the servant leadership of, you know, well, the leader is the one who does things for others and serves others. So it was neat to see. And we had a lot of fun.
How many kids? About 100 that you were taking on
We
this?
took 50. We only took one bus. So yes, we took 50. And we had some great teacher sponsors to go to, and we stayed in cabins, and it was very neat.
Well, speaking of service, I imagine with the holidays coming up, there's probably a lot of opportunities there. Is there anything going on with that?
Yes, we are going to visit a retirement community and sing some songs with some seniors, and then also make some cute crafts with them. So we're excited about that.
Tell us about the interview process that you're training them for. So there's a handshake portion to the
Handshake
mock
portion.
interview. What is the handshake portion?
Well, we some teachers at Houston Middle were lucky enough to get together. We're on Clark Academy, and so we saw how their students, just their demeanor, their personalities, how they spoke with adults. It was amazing, and that's important for our kids to have also. So we wanted to make sure, even though they're only in 8th grade, they need to know how to look you in the eye. They need to have, you know, proper handshake, to not be scared of adults and speak to people when you pass them in the hallway. So we're going to have, like I said, an interview session where they get to practice some interview questions and their peers will give them some feedback. And then the writing portion where they answer a question, and then some teachers and peers will give them feedback. And then, like I said, the handshake one, I think they'll find that the funniest.
So is there any kind of college visits that's happening with this?
Yes, we're going to do college visits. A lot of our kids are already thinking about colleges, of course, because that's so important to our community and our families. But we wanted them to know in 8th grade the things that you're doing now, even though you may only be 13 or 14, will impact, you know, what you're going to do in college. So we're going to do some local visits. We may try to go somewhere close like Nashville as well, so they can, you know, start talking to people and see what's important in grades and tests, and community service also, which, you know, is very important. So we're excited about that for our kids.
And I think that's an important piece, is them developing into good citizens. Do y'all have a day coming up where y'all are trying to plan a service opportunity?
We are.
for them?
It's something new. You know, we always like new, exciting things at Houston Middle. So we're going to have a day of service where all of our 8th graders in the spring will be out somewhere serving, and both of our academies are going to plan that. So they'll research, they'll call the organizations, they'll line up the entire trip and plan it, and then every 8th grader will participate in some type of service, either here locally or in the greater Memphis area.
Well, we're excited to see how the Junior Honors Academy and Leadership Academy grow.
We're very excited.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
When we return from the break, we will speak with Houston High School's Juli Anna Stanford and her father to learn about their personal connection with the upcoming World AIDS Day.
Really? Buzz, what's up, man? You left some leaves burning out here.
Yeah, I just just came in just for a second.
Come on, man. If it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave. You could torch the whole neighborhood.
It's a good point there, Smokey.
9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
So who's gonna do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice. And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
We couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
You are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome back to Spotlight on Excellence, a monthly program where we showcase some of the amazing things happening in and around your Germantown schools. We would like to welcome to the show Houston High School student Juli Anna Stanford and her father Shane Stanford. Thank y'all for being here.
Our pleasure.
Well, there's an important day coming up, Juliana, that I think means something personal to you. Tell us about what's happening on December the 1st.
All right, so December the 1st is World AIDS Day, and that is recognized throughout the world. My dad contracted HIV when he was 16 years old through a blood transfusion, and my whole life growing up, we've been going to World AIDS Day conferences. And we've kind of gotten disconnected with the community in the past few years, and I am a member of the HOSA board, and that's a health science club, and we deal with health, bringing spotlights to health issues, and I realized World AIDS Day was coming up. So I decided that I would kind of spotlight it this year, and hopefully this will be something that continues on. I am bringing in a speaker from Hope House, which is an organization here in Memphis that provides resources to kids with AIDS and parents with AIDS and parents with kids with AIDS. And my dad's going to come in and share his testimony, and we're going to bring spotlight, give some truths about AIDS, talk about some lies that are shared, and give some real statistics. You know, 300 teens a day die from this virus. And AIDS, my whole life growing up, I've heard people make jokes about it because it's something that most people aren't directly affected by. But because my dad has HIV, which is a less severe form of AIDS, it's always like really hit home. So I just want students to see through this that AIDS is not a joke, and it's a reality, and a really scary reality for some people.
Well, it seems like in the United States there was a big push around AIDS, and I'm thinking late 80s when it first hit the scene, but you don't hear a lot about it. So I think this is something, like you said, that's special for students. You talked about students not really knowing. Where do you think their lack of understanding is? Where do you think they're missing?
I think their lack of understanding is maybe a lack of caring. Most people aren't directly affected, or they're unaware that they know of people who have AIDS, because AIDS comes with different stigmas. Most people who have either HIV or AIDS are too afraid to talk about it because they're too afraid of what people will think about them, what people will say about them. And when you put something like this on the table and say, you know, we all have different problems, and this is something that we want to talk about together and be aware as a community that AIDS is a real issue.
So you've got some exciting things planned for this day. So you went through them really quick, but let's go through them slow again. So for the students, you've got bracelets. Do they say something special on the bracelet?
Do. They say HHS loves Hope House, and they have World AIDS Day on the other side of them, and I will be selling them at Houston High School during lunches November the 30th and through December the 2nd.
Oh, good. So everybody can have a bracelet.
Yes, sir, and they're only $1 a piece, and all the proceeds go directly to Hope House.
So where is Hope House? Is it downtown Memphis?
Yes, sir. It's on Main Street, I believe, and it's a wonderful organization. I've been corresponding back and forth with one of their volunteer coordinators, and we are going to get to have someone come in, and they'll be there to answer questions. Teenagers are more than welcome to volunteer. And just to become more involved, and they do other fundraisers, and we hope to become more involved with Houston and Hope House.
Oh, that's good. Well, Shane, tell us a little bit about your story, because I think part of the concern that you said was people feeling like they don't really want to share that they have AIDS or HIV with people. Tell us about your experience.
Well, I'm sitting here just looking at my daughter, being a very proud father, and not really needing to say a whole lot more because she's just done such a beautiful job with this. But I was her age, just a little bit younger than her, when I found out that I was HIV positive. They had actually tested me about 9 months before they told me, because being a hemophiliac and having had blood transfusions, they thought that may be the case, and they were very afraid to tell me because there was no medicines, there was no treatments. The lifespan was about 1 to 2 years after diagnosis at that time. And many people have heard of Ryan White.
Right.
Ryan and I were actually 6 months apart in age. And just to show you how two different roads can happen in the same disease, you know, he died in his late teens, and I've here lived to be, I feel like a very old man sometimes, but you know, it was a shock. And I can remember trying to get my brain around the idea, because I tell people I went to bed, you know, as captain of the golf team and president of my class and dating the prettiest girl in school, and the next day I'm told that I have a disease that may take, you know, me in a year or two. And there really is, there's nothing that can be said about just the fear and the uncertainty of a disease like that hitting your life. because we were very afraid to tell anybody for many years. We kept it secret. No one except for the girl that I was dating, who I ended up marrying, who is Juli Anna's mom, my wife. She was the only one to know, and we found ourselves in a situation when I was finishing theology school that we had to report it in order for me to be ordained. And that's how it became public. And since then, it seems like everyone knows, because I've traveled literally all over the world telling the story.
So what's the primary focus between the World's AIDS Day? Is it a focus on research and curing the disease, or is it more about helping families who are struggling with this crisis? What do you think the main focus is, or is it multifaceted?
It's yes and yes and yes. We are still in need of funds to help with research. You know, it's not on the front page anymore, and sometimes it's barely on the back page, but this is still the disease, as Juli Anna said, takes 300 teens a year. It is still, given in any number of years, it is still the #1 killer among young African American women ages 18 to 25 around the world. You know, when you think about this disease and how difficult it is, it can shift. It's a shift shaping disease, as they call them. So there are very new strands of the disease developing every year. And just because you don't hear about it doesn't mean that it's not contagious. It doesn't mean that it's not dangerous. And I mean, Juli Anna got involved with it not just because of me, but because she became very concerned about how some people just were taking the risks not seriously enough. Would you agree?
Yeah, a lot of what I'm doing here is going to be promoting it, saying that this is still an issue in the world today, and making people aware that there are 36.7 million people in the world who have AIDS, and even though you may not have it or nobody that you know has it, it's still an issue, and that it's our job as humans to recognize that and to bring light to situations.
So how did you get connected to Hope House? Was that something that as a family that you had worked with before, or did you search them out and find them?
You know, I've been involved with it in various ways, but it really was Juli Anna who made the connection. So, I mean, it's her story.
I just Googled on the internet AIDS in Memphis and where they were, and I'd heard people talk about Hope House. I'd heard my dad talk about it a little bit, but specifically I went through and I'd heard about some awesome things. Some of the other organizations at Houston have done fundraising for them, and as soon as I emailed one of the people that worked there, they were so kind to respond back and were very easy to work with, and so that was one of the main reasons why I chose them.
Well, I think you're an example of what we're talking about. Our goals in educating students is not just learning the arithmetic, learning science, learning math. It's about helping you grow as a citizen, and you're really helping the other students at Houston High School do that too. So thank you so much for bringing awareness for World's AIDS Day, and thank you for really developing that partnership with Hope House. I'm excited to see what Houston and Hope House can do together.
Thank you.
After a short break, we will bring Germantown Municipal School's lead librarian in to discuss some of the great things happening in the school libraries.
Here's your check. Oh, you got it. You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. God, no.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early. You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Hey, Hard, what's this?
That's my resignation letter.
You're resigning.
Why?
Because you're constantly ignoring me. You're half as active as you used to be, and you eat stuff like this. You've been putting me under a lot of pressure lately. That's why I'm ready to quit.
I forgot. I'll do better. Please, don't quit on me.
Okay, but remember, it's not what you say, it's what you do.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you.
Let's go for a walk.
Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
You are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome back. I am Superintendent Jason Manuel.
And I'm co-host Mason Grace. Now we get to spend some time with Jennifer Mock from Farmington Elementary and learn about some exciting things happening in our school libraries. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so I think there's some new things happening in the library across the district. So what kind of things are happening?
There are. We just came off an exciting guest author that we had at Houston Middle Riverdale. His name was Nathan Hale, and we had seen him, 4 of us had seen him at the Tennessee Library Association conference the previous year. And when we saw his presentation there, we just knew that our Germantown students would love to see him.
And he's not the typical type of speaker from what I've seen. He's actually interactive.
Yes.
And the version of history tells is a little bit different. What was your favorite story that you told when he was at the schools?
Well, you know, I like them both for different reasons. He did 2 presentations at Farmington. He did one with my pre-K to 2nd grade, and it was more about how he became an author illustrator. And it was very inspiring because he was talking about how he didn't have a TV as a kid, so he drew his own Scooby-Doo series. And then he just drew at school, and then one day his 2nd grade teacher asked him to draw. He was good at drawing, so he asked him to draw the door, the Halloween door, and he did so great at that. He said, I said yes, and he did so good at that that he got asked by other teachers to do things. And then he went to middle school, and they asked him to paint the scenery for the school play, and he said yes. And same thing, he got to high school, they asked him to do something, and he said yes. And that led to college. He did a lot of things in college, and then he went to a museum and asked them, did they have anybody painting their murals? And they said no, and he's like, well, I want to do it. And then he went from there, and he asked if he would do some cover art for other authors and illustrators, and he said yes. And so he drew like a little step diagram, and actually the whole time he talks, he draws, which fascinated the kids. Like you could hear a needle drop. They were all like totally focused on everything that he was drawing as he was talking, and drew some stairs. And he told them, you know, had he not said yes to a 2nd grade teacher, if he said no, he would have stayed at the same, and said he kept leveling up, is what he called it. He leveled up to the next level until he started getting paid to do his art.
Oh, wow.
And so that was really neat, and it was inspiring. And he told them, he also told them that he always entered art contests twice a year in school, you know, like the school district one and the state one, and he never won. He said, I never won 1st place, 2nd place, 3rd place. But I always said yes when I got asked to do art, and he said, and I just got up. So it doesn't matter if you're the very best, as long as you're persistent and you always say yes to any opportunity that goes your way. So I thought that was like really inspiring, and a lot of kids were like going home, and I got emails and saw on Facebook all my kids were like at home drawing.
How
and
exciting that was, yeah.
So I like that for that. But then with the older kids, he did the Lewis and Clark tale, which I heard he did at the other schools too with their older students, and it was.
Which other schools did he visit?
He went to Houston Middle, and he went to Riverdale and Dogwood. We coordinated all of them, and he also actually went to Arlington too.
Okay.
Besides speaker series, though, in our libraries, and that's incredible, because I think you'll have other speakers you're trying to get for
We
the
are.
district. Are there any out there that you really have your eyes set
Well,
on?
this year at the conference, we heard Aaron Reynolds, and he is an award-winning New York Times best-selling author, and he's hilarious. And before he started writing, he was an actor, he was a chef, he was a dancer, and he's just really funny, and he's got a great backstory. I'd love for him to come see our kids, because I think, again, he's one that could talk to all age ranges.
Now, our libraries are not the same that they have been, because I went to Farmington, and we just really had books. They've become more technologically advanced than when I was there. How is it different from when I went to school at Farmington?
Okay. This year, we started going to an online platform for our, so there's no more card catalog. You don't stick a card in the book or anything. It's all online. And before it was on the computer, but it was at our schools, and now it's online, so parents can log in from the house, and students, and they can see what books they have checked out. They can put books on hold. They can review books, and so that's been really neat. The kids have really been enjoying that.
Do y'all exchange books between schools? So if my daughter's at Houston Middle and I get online and I see a book is not there, but it's at Riverdale, but it's Houston High, is that possible?
Not yet, but we have been talking about that. Okay. We've also been talking with the Germantown Community Library and see if we can't get some kind of interloan thing going that way too.
All libraries are not made the same, and each school has their own culture, and I think it's true for librarians and their libraries. And being in the lead librarian role, what have you seen that's different between the different school libraries? Do they have different programs that they're promoting or different things that are special?
We do. We try to keep some things the same, but we all kind of have different focuses. And like at Dogwood, they have been doing a lot of STEM projects that sound really exciting. Their librarian has been doing, they've been building bridges and making boats, and a strong emphasis in the STEAM. And over at Riverdale, they've been doing, she got a $10,000 grant from the Germantown Education Foundation. And so she got a bunch of iPads, and they've been doing a lot of research projects, especially with her middle school kids over there.
Wow.
And at Farmington, we used our book fair profits and got 16 iPads. And we've been kind of doing some creative projects with our iPads.
Very nice. I think you have some things coming up, right? I think you have like Battle of the Books maybe coming up. Tell us about Battle of the Books.
Well, you got to tell the history first, because I think you're in a little bit on the history of the Battle of the Books. How did it come to Germantown Schools?
To Germantown. My first year, this is my 4th year, so my first year I was put in, I was one of the 2 new librarians in the old Shelby County school system. And the other one was in the Bartlett district. And so I went to their PLCs, because we were all still connected. And so I went to their PLCs, and some of us got together, and us 2 new ones had talked about Battle of the Books in our college work and everything. And so we were like, let's try this. Let's do a little beta group. And so we got 8 schools that first year, and did just one tournament, prepared and just did one tournament, and it worked out so well, and the kids liked it so much that the second year was when the merger happened. And so then we decided that let's do one per district and then do like a county-wide one. And so we did it that year as well.
And I think y'all won again that year.
We did. So we won the first, Farmington won the first year, and then we won again the second year for both the district and the county. And then last year we did about the same, except we lost our county to Barrett's Chapel. But that's okay, but we're really excited about this year, because again, we're partnering with the Germantown Community Library, and they were able to take it to a state level, and so we're having a statewide competition. And he's already had several schools from across the state that's signed up for that, so we're really excited about that.
Well, thank you for making reading fun for students, and thank you for changing the way libraries work in our system, and I'm excited to see what you're going to do next.
Good. Thank you.
Well, that's all we have time for in this episode. If you'd like more information about this or any other show on Germantown Municipal Television, visit us on our website at www.gmtvonline.org. Until next time, this has been Superintendent Jason Manuel for this month's installment of the Germantown Municipal School District's Spotlight on Excellence.